Welcome back to Strive 365, where we help guide you to live a better life, whether it be mentally, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. I am Justin Arnold for another episode here. And today we have a very special guest, and our first guest overseas. His name is Dennis. He is from Germany, and we connected a while back on social media. And I just thought his story, his life, his journey, especially over the last year, is just incredible. And I feel a lot of you can relate. And he is going to provide some awesome stuff today. But I also believe it just shows that whether we're on different parts of this planet, in this world, that we're all going through similar things and we all can relate and we can all connect and we can all potentially help each other. So with that, Dennis, why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Tell everyone what you'd like to tell them. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Dennis from Germany, 39 years old. Struggling with mental health issues, but I'm on my best way and I'm living the best life.
Yeah, and that's why we connected. So one thing I learned recently is, well, why don't you tell, Dennis, like, what were you doing professionally about a year ago? Or currently, I guess, but you're on leave, correct?
Yeah, currently, I still waiting for them to release me. I'm a bomb squad professional, so explosive ordnance disposal operator at the German army, if you put it in a fancy prescription. And that's me. And
so you and how long had you been how long have you been with the German army, and how long specifically have you been with the German bomb squad, we'll call it?
12 years in the German army, and now 4 years bomb squad professional with the education and all that.
So bomb squad, like, what, for people that, I mean, that just sounds kind of interesting. What would be daily or weekly duties, things that you'd be doing?
If I'm honest, sitting at my desk waiting for my deployment.
So on deployment, where have you been? Where have you been?
And never went on a deployment. I was 3 times planned for a deployment, but it got cancelled. And if I'm looking back, I'm very happy about that. And yeah.
But would you guys do like training exercises and things like that on a regular basis?
Yes. Training with disposal from ammunition. Yeah.
Yeah, so something that you shared with me is just like you went and you shared on your Instagram yesterday, kind of like your health journey. Like you'd gone through a lot. So one of the things I remember you telling me was over the past 3 to 4 years, there was started to be a decline. And within the past year, you used the words emotional breakdown. So why don't you tell me about that and what kind of led up to that and what you refer to your emotional breakdown?
It starts, I guess, 3 years from now back, and I looked in the mirror and thought to myself, this can't be my life. And I start to change many of the things. My nutrition, I start working out and practice daily, and try to be the healthiest version of myself every day.
Yeah, so let's go back, but like what do you think was the initial cause, or why do you think you were dealing with mental health issues? What was because a lot of people here in America, in the States, it's definitely it's on the incline, along with obesity and things like that. So what went from, I mean, you're married and you have like a child and you have a job, you have a career that you've been doing for 12 years, but then did it seem like all of a sudden, or like was it something gradual, and what kind of happened? Take us to that place.
I guess it has something to do with the disconnection to myself. I was disconnected to myself. I drank a lot, alcohol, and I was disconnected to myself.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and my thoughts was never on what I actually do.
What were you thinking about?
Always in the future. Always got the next goal. I want to go further and further and further, and don't celebrate my goals, and completely lost the connection to myself. And it 2021. It starts with heart problems, like someone standing on my chest all the time, and no one find anything. I was visiting doctors more often than I went to work, and yeah, then my doctor told me maybe you need some coaching, maybe you need some therapy, and as you know, if you start digging and try to find shit, then you find shit, and that's when all the mental health issues starts to evolve, and yeah, that leads me to a point where where I had my emotional breakdown, and to this point when my wife broke up with me, and she told me,
Wow.
"Leave me." Yeah,
So you're doing this for 12 years,
yeah,
and then you're having, you said, like heart problems, like chest problems, like somebody standing on your chest. And yeah, I assume you're
yeah.
having other health problems,
No,
just the
no. Yeah,
heart, the chest.
I was overweight.
You're
I was
overweight.
overweight. I slept poorly. I drank a lot, and
Overweight. Slept
yeah.
poorly.
I
And
mean,
by
it's
overweight, so people can get a visual of what that looked like. What was kind of like your height? What was kind of your weight at the time when you were overweight?
um, yeah. It's we use the metric system. 176 centimeters in height, and
67 centimeters, you said? Wait, no.
67 centimeters. So
Yeah, one.
in height,
Right.
and 103 kilograms.
Okay, so you were about like 5'6", and what was your weight?
103 kilogram.
What is that? You got that one, Scott? I'm trying to think. 227 pounds. Sound about right? Yeah, I think so. All right. So you're about, I'm going to use those. So you're about 5'6", 5'7", somewhere around there, and about 227 pounds. And what do you weigh right now?
83 kilograms.
Okay. So I got to do some math here. It's been a minute.
We got to do the math.
182. So you went from 227 to 182. Wow, that's pretty incredible. But you would attribute, so heart problem, let's go back. Overweight, 227. Dealing, not sure what's wrong with you, and then you realize you just started to have this mental decline. I mean, if you missed that part, so this guy working for the military, doing a great thing for his country. He, and many of you military veterans or people that are connected can relate. Doing his duty, and then starts to he's got things going on. You know, for whatever reason. I don't want to make any assumptions, but I know many can relate. There's the drinking, there's the sleep problems. Like they're all connected. It becomes a downward spiral. You're overweight. Then your heart starts hurting, like to the point that somebody's standing on your chest. You lose your wife. Is there anything else you like to add to that? That's going not so.
No, I guess it's a big package to carry for one. Yeah.
So when you realized I mean, was there maybe there wasn't, but was there a moment where you realized, obviously there had to be, where this was all going on, and many people just continue to go down that road. Many people that I've worked with continue to blame or point fingers, don't see a way out. But for you to be where you're at today and living this incredible life, and you said, I think earlier, something along the lines of like, you're living your best life. How can you say that? Like, was there something that just flipped one day where like, I can't keep going on? Was there a reason? Was there a why? Tell me about that.
It's the process. It's the complete process from my emotional breakdown. From I have a clinic stay in a mental health clinic for 6 weeks last year, and where I can daily talk to a therapist, and they help me. And for me, accepting that I'm supposed to be in this moment right now. There's no other place for me at this moment. The acceptance for this I guess that was the point, the acceptance for this right.
So you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, that you were supposed to be going through that pain, that hardship. Is that what you're saying?
No, but all my mistakes, all I have been through, guide me to this moment. So I don't
like
I don't
a teachable lesson
that it is not necessary to go all to these trials, but now I'm standing here at this moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is what I talk about a lot. This is what I talk about in my first book, Purpose Through Pain. And you're hitting the nail on the head. And many people struggle through this, that your life choices, correct me if I'm wrong, but led you to that path. But it also woke you up. It sounds like that you needed to make a switch, correct? You need to make a change. Yeah. So was there a deep why though? Like, besides like this is the right thing to do, I can't continue this life cycle. Was there something you're working towards? Like you had just lost your wife. Was it your 5-year-old? Was there something deeper?
I don't know. I guess it was something deeper. I started working while I was on the clinic stay with my inner child and my deep wounds, and I had some moments where I was sitting crying and can't look through the mirror.
You couldn't even look at yourself through the mirror. So raise of hands of those that are listening that struggle to look at themselves in the mirror. Obviously I can't see it, but I know this is real for a lot of people. I know this because this was me, I want to say, through my teenage years. I could hear it over and over again, people telling me attractive or good looking, even from people I loved. And it's a struggle for people that go through things. And so I'm glad you shared that because I know a lot of people can relate to that. So man, talk a little bit more about that, like not being able to look in the mirror. You talked about therapy, and I've talked about, whatever works, whether it's therapists, you talked about your inner child. I want to know what do you mean? Because this might be new. I know what you're talking about, but what do you mean when you say working on your inner child?
To get the connection to my inner self.
Why is that important?
To get the connection. And if you're not well connected to yourself, you can't connect to the outer world. It's not possible. It's not possible to connect in an honest way. It's easier to wear a mask every day because the mask shows that you're not vulnerable, but you are.
Yeah.
You are. And it's okay to be weak and not. It's a hard word, but it's okay to be weak sometimes. And
so I would use a different verbiage as far as I think it's strong to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
You say weak, but I think what you mean is, I believe, and I imagine what you mean is to be vulnerable, be open, to share, to dig down deep. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I've done inner child work, and a lot of people that may be hard to understand, but for somebody like me personally, and I'll share a little bit of mine, is I had a lot of childhood trauma, abuse, sexual assault, rape, physical abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse. And so for people that go through that, from my personal experience, you want to get away from that. You want to run away from that. You never want to think about that stuff ever again. But to really, truly heal from that, you have to go back to that. You have to forgive those. From my personal experience, and for me to really be able to get through that was forgive, go back, as painful it might seem, almost relive, reimagine, re-go over. I used to have so many flashbacks, and I occasionally might randomly, but they're not really flashbacks. They're not painful anymore. Like I would have flashbacks. I don't know about you, but I would have flashbacks of my painful childhood. But the more I started to actually go back there and kind of replay it, relive it, forgive myself, forgive those, tell myself that nothing's wrong with me, that I had no control over that there was strength in opening my mind back up into those experiences. And then there was strength in being vulnerable to the point of sharing it with my wife, sharing with others, and then eventually writing a book. Again, I'm not saying everybody needs to go write a book about these tough and painful and traumatic stories, but like you mentioned, you had to go back to these places to heal, to really move forward, to really strive, right? Every day. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was it, you said what, 6 weeks that you were in this clinic?
Yeah.
So did you see a lot of progress in that 6 week time?
Yeah.
You did?
Yes.
Like what kind of
Yes.
progress?
Calm my mind.
Calm your
Clarity.
mind. What kind of stuff did they do?
It's not what they do. I had the whole day for me with therapies, group therapies. The whole day you could speak to people, but I add meditation, strange exercises, walks through the forest, connect with nature every day, and this was the point for me: connection with nature.
For those that are listening to this and not watching, I'm smiling really big. And I'm smiling really big because I don't know. I mean, Scott, you chime in because I don't know, but like when he talks about therapy, group therapy, it sounds like community. It sounds like a group of people wanting to really help you out. And talking about movement as a thing to help you, talking about nature. And these are all things I preach in my facility, in my community, in my groups on this podcast. And again, the reason why I asked you, Scott, like if you had anything, because like I'm sure it's happening, but not at a great scale here in the United States.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this probably isn't going to make it to the podcast because I wasn't set up for my voice to come in.
That's fine.
So we might have to move on from this part.
Oh, okay. Well,
sorry.
Should I elaborate what you're saying?
Yeah, just yeah.
So Scott can't chime in right now. I punched him in the mouth. No, I'm kidding. I love this guy. He's laughing. No, but seriously, just technical things. But I'll share. He agreed. There isn't a whole lot of opportunity. Now, I am in Western New York. For those that are listening, we're in Western New York. I am originally from the Midwest. I know there might be some things out west because I do have some friends in like Arizona and California, but it's still very new. I've read up on the way Germany looks at health and even taking care of their military. And I'm not trying to this isn't a bash on the United States. This is just showing that these things work and clinics can do this. And we're seeing a great example, Dennis, of like doing these things. But like he said in the beginning, they just introduced him, right? You had to do the work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it always comes down to that. Go ahead. Sorry.
There's no one doing the work for you. No one.
Yeah.
You have to accept the fact that you have to do the work. Yeah. It's all on you.
So, I mean, this could be a repeating message in a lot of different facets, but don't be afraid to be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to ask for help. There is strength in that, especially as men. Nobody can do life alone. There's now new research, and I wish I had the stats in front of me. I didn't realize this was going to come up, the community aspect. But there is research to show the benefits of community. I will give you some facts about community. In indigenous people, where they have done long-term studies on indigenous people in the world, a couple cool things that have come out of it. There's plenty of cool stuff. But one, mental health isn't a thing in indigenous tribes because of the community aspect. Everybody is the family. If one child, say like my child is running off or there might be like something attack it, it's not up to that mom and dad like here, oh, that's not my child. I hear that all the time here in America. No, it's the job of the community to protect that child. There's not mental health. You're not looking at Alzheimer's. You're not looking at any of these things because of the benefits of connecting, community love, and we're starting to see a buildup in the importance of that. What's also really cool, and this is just a side, I always find it fascinating. Back problems are a big issue here, probably globally, but definitely in the U.S. There aren't back issues in indigenous people of this world, according to long-term research. Now, I've never lived in one, so I'm not talking from experience here. And I believe from a movement standpoint, which you talked about, And back can lead to pain, which can lead to mental pain. It's all connected. But if you're not dealing with back issues, that can really improve life. But the reason probably for it is the continual core work, rotational, functional movement, reaching in a variety of different directions. So again, the benefits of movement on the body, on the mind, nature is another thing you mentioned. They're already in it. So the community aspect as well. I'm loving this. So anything else you want to share about that? Because I want to know after that 6 weeks when you got put back into the real world. I want to move on if possible, unless you had something else to share from that, and what that looked like and how you continued this upward trend.
So the last week on my clinical stay, I don't know where to live when I come.
Because you're divorced, right? At this point, you're divorced at this point.
No, not divorced, but
separated.
We are not living. We're separated. Yeah.
Okay.
And there was an option for me to live in an empty house, and this was the option that I created in my head. And the last week, I remember it was the Wednesday or so. My wife called me and said it would be great if you come home. We live in a big house.
So your wife, who you're separated with, says, "Why don't you come home?"
Because she said it would be the best for our son to give him the family feeling. And
how old was your son at this point? How old was your son at this point? He's 5 now, correct?
So this was like 4 years. 4 years at this moment. Yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah.
So you're separated, and you've just gone through 6 weeks of this, and your wife thinking about what sounds like, I would imagine, is the child's mental health. Yeah. Wants dad to come home, even though you and her. So it sounds like she wants to put your differences, whether it's push them aside or work on them, maybe not get back together, but she sees for your child to grow up to have the best possible life needs both a mother and father within the same dwelling, correct?
Yeah. But she told me she can be the mother, but she can't be the father, and he needs his father.
I don't know why I'm getting really emotional, right? I'm not like crying or anything, but like this is emotional because like I don't hear this. Like, and so you guys are currently cohabitating, but you're not together, right? You're just cohabitating.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys live in the same home, I assume, in different areas. You sleep in a different bed and stuff, correct? And is that working well?
It's challenging sometimes. We are arguing about stupid stuff, like every relationship. And we have discussions about life problems, but we have a different relationship to each other.
Does it feel more like how do I want to put this? Does it feel more like a team friendship?
Like a team, but not like a friendship.
Okay.
Like it's difficult to explain.
Does it feel like more like a working relationship? Like somebody, like go back to the military life. Does it feel like somebody like that's on your like your team there for like the bomb squad? Does it feel like you guys are working for a greater cause? The reason why I ask these questions, I'm trying to give people this idea because I know there's going to be people like, there's no way that works. There's no way that can work. That's not helping the child. I'm sure there's going to be pushback, but it sounds like it is working well. So I want to paint the picture for people that have never, ever considered this option because people don't see this even as a viable option. And you said you argue, but do you see that it's working out positively for your son?
Yes.
So
absolutely.
So how is that working out positively for your son? Well, I guess how would you see it? Like if you weren't in the same place, what are some of the things that you imagine might his life look like if you weren't in the same home? Worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario.
Without his dad there every day.
Trauma he received few years later. I try to see his future, and when I'm not with him, he needs his father. He need to be held by his father, and if he's not held by his father, yeah, his mother could teach him life lessons, but it's so important that the father is there for his son.
Yeah, I think there's so many people that would agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of research to show the importance of having both a male and, whether it be a mother, father, but a male and female role model, and whether the child is a boy or a girl, I believe both are important. Somebody put it to me this way once, that when a child is born, the mother, because they first come out of the mother, and then they're most likely held to the chest of the mother, breastfed, and all that, is almost like a mirror image. They're so connected to their mother, especially a boy to his mother. And I see that in my own household, the connection my son and my wife have, but then the father is like the child's version or view of what the world looks like. So how that relationship is, or lack there is how they'll go out into the world. And so, have you ever heard that before? That's fairly new to me. You have heard that. Yes. So yeah. So you kind of, do you agree with that? In
Absolutely.
a way? Yeah. Yeah. And we don't need to go out on the studies, but what are some of the things that you can just talk on from a father, for some of the fathers listening here, that you believe are super important that you're providing as a father to this child that maybe a mother can't? Or
play with figure. Them.
Go ahead.
To go out, to go out in nature, to told him things about nature.
What do you mean?
Having adventures with him, going outside in the forest and be in the forest. Told him about the trees that's standing around.
Like, yeah. And like doing like man stuff. Like, I look at like a male as, yes, a provider, but also like a protector in a way. And there's there's real benefits to masculinity. I feel like, there's been this term toxic masculinity tossed around. I've talked about it in my book. I believe there's a way to be what's called a man, but a man isn't hurting his wife. A man isn't beating his children. A man isn't just going and working. A man isn't drinking, and a man isn't neglecting. A man isn't is what? Trying to do the best to better his family, himself around him, for his health, physically and mentally, emotionally. It's being able to cry and be vulnerable, but also being able to stand up, right? Being able to protect, being able to show adventures and go on adventures, to be courageous. And courageous doesn't mean absence of fear, as you know. Courageous is just going through it and embracing the fear, knowing it's there and navigating in, around, and through it, right? And so it sounds like is that like what you feel? Is that some of it? Have I left anything out?
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's incredible. I believe that's incredible, and I encourage other people that are listening to really, maybe it's different, and maybe living together isn't an option. But I know from the number of clients I've worked with that are separated or divorced or struggling, to really take a look. And one thing I notice from at least my personal experiences, I'll give you some of mine too. My parents, for example, they're still technically and legally together, but since I was in high school, and they're like 76, my mom, not my dad, my mom has always threatened to want to separate or divorce, which really gave me a weird perspective on that, but they always stayed together. And all I saw from my father was really trying different ways to work it out: love, compassion, understanding, and ways to work it out. And they would always find different ways. She might make these idle threats, But I've seen it, and I've seen what that does because I've been the example of it. But I know that no matter how imperfect my life was with some of these fights and these scenarios, I had examples, both a male and female, in front of me to do that. From a client, like I said earlier, I've seen what that's done to the kids and to the parents, especially the ones that do a lot of blaming. Oh, he or this, or a lot of fighting. I mean, I just was talking to a guy the other day who was steps from literally his wife. I don't know the complete story, but his wife had left him, and he was inches from committing suicide. And he reached out to me, and I started talking to him of sorts. And it's interesting how the words that he was using and the verbiage in his language towards the whole situation just started going down a spiral of just negativity and a downward spiral of sorts. So my first task was just one, being there for him and letting him be okay with being open. And because the more he expressed it, I could tell the better he got. But also, like, pointing the finger back at him and his responsibility in it, because that's all he could control. He couldn't control her. He could hate her. He could blame her. But also, like, if he did what he said he was going to do, what would he be leaving behind? Well, he's got children. Could they live a life better without him or with him? And he decided right then and there that it had to be with him. So he had to work on things. And I'm sure you could agree to the same thing. That and you guys, I mean, that was a little bit of a different version, but I believe there are ways to really work together on these things. And I love your story, and that's why I wanted you on here, because so many people have been through so many similar things, especially military and PTSD. And I was actually talking to my wife about mental health recently and how it's still very much taboo here in the United States. It's still, like, especially in like police, firefighter, military, it's looked at it as weak. And if you admit to it, you look like you're letting people down, or you're letting yourself down, or it's a weakness. And some people would just, what they consider, take the easy course, suicide or something of that nature, as opposed to really dealing with it. You realize that, you may not be famous in the world's eyes, but you're famous to maybe one or two, your child or your wife or some important relationship. And so you made the decision that I need to do something about this. And you found wins. Obviously, you did the work in therapy, in groups, in community, in movement, in nature. And one thing I want to ask you now is, now you're here for your son. Are you finding value? Are you seeing that you're learning and growing, not only teaching your child, are you learning from him as well?
I saw him as my mirror.
Wow.
He's my mirror. He reflected me all the time. And when I was at my clinical stay, I wrote a fairy tale every day for him.
A fairy tale, that's cool.
We FaceTimed every evening before he goes to bed. And I wrote down a fairy tale for him. And I spoke about it with my therapist. And she told me, these fairy tales aren't for your son. Those fairy tales are for your inner child.
Oh, wow. Man,
unconscious.
I just got goosebumps. That's so crazy. Yeah. Man, that's powerful. So you don't have a fairy tale. You can't share one, can you?
They lay down, and they are in German. It's difficult to translate.
Even better.
Maybe we could put it. Maybe I wrote down one, and you could put it in the show description or so.
Yeah, how about you do that? So people have reason to go to our show notes. He's gonna send us one hopefully after the show. I believe that's important. I think that's really cool. So, man, fairy tale to your son. Did you read some of those to him, or did you read them all to him?
All. Every evening when we FaceTime each other, it was all. Those tales were about animals. His favorite animals, deep sea. It was a kraken, or
The Kraken. For my hockey fans,
penguins.
Seattle Kraken.
or penguins, and
Another
all
mascot.
with a story to be the best version of yourself. To don't care about what others say.
Man,
That
that's so cool. Like, so what was his reaction when you read? And did you tell him that you wrote these?
yes, he
That's so
was
cool.
he loved this tales, all of them, He loved this, and I kept it in my desk, and maybe later when he can read, I will handle them. I will handle them to him, and then he can reread them.
So you just brought up another good thing that I glad you brought up, and that's writing and fairy tale. I never thought about that one. So again, I'm not saying everyone needs to go write something and publish it, but we keep things up here in our minds, and we could think it away. We could try to think. We push it away. We could put it on, but whether it be goals, aspirations, or affirmations, whether it be healing through something, I believe there is. No, I know. I don't believe. I know for a fact personally, and I've seen it. And you're just another example of writing is therapeutic. The writing can help heal. What was cool about yours is, well, I just wrote a story in a book. This dude wrote fairy tales. So for those creative people who are looking for something different or something maybe more fun, or write a fairy tale. And I'm not saying you got to go share it in any form or fashion other than with yourself. Maybe though, you keep talking about mirror. Your son's a mirror image. It was trouble to look in the mirror. I can relate to some of this. I know others can. But a powerful tool that I use with clients is, especially when it comes to affirmations, goals, or healing, is say it in the mirror. Write that fairy
Yeah,
tale. Write that
yeah,
journal. I created a free journal for my clients because I knew the importance of just writing. Writing down your daily tasks, 2 or 3 sentences, writing down a reflection. I have something, I actually write in 3 journals each morning, and it sounds like a lot, but it takes me less than like 8 minutes. I got one that's like one thought a day. I've got my journal, which like my daily reflections and like, and then I've got like a gratitude journal, and then some of my goals for the day. So, and I've seen huge wins in this, but yeah, I encourage you guys to write stuff down, especially if you're in the healing process or whatever your goals. So this podcast, Strive 365, and use healthy language instead of like, I have to work out today. Say I get to, or I want to, things like that, and say it looking yourself in the mirror. The reason for that, if you're not familiar, what's the big deal on that? Because we tell in our mind when we say things like I have to, I need to, it's not empowering. It can actually be painful, sound like a chore, a task. It can be daunting. So the words that we use in these, more like, so if I look in the mirror, and maybe I'm looking I look in the camera, wherever. Man, I really have to work out. I get to work out today. Being healthy is super important to me. I want to be healthy for my kids, as opposed to, God, I'm so fat and overweight. Like, and then say that in front of the mirror. Do both examples. See how you feel, and then maybe that's what you journal about, how you feel. But back to this: if you're in a trauma or healing or whatever it is, I challenge you to write it down. And if fairy tales is the way, if a poem, if a haiku, I just like the word haiku. That's why I do it. But if it's whatever it is, like, do it, man. That is so cool. I can't wait to share that fairy tale. So how are things going now? What are some of the other things you're doing to continue daily to strive, to overcome? Because for those that are going through mental health, or maybe you never have, just like anything, it's not like once you get it there, just like a weight loss journey, once you get there, you're done. It's going to be a lifelong practice, correct? So what are some of the things you're doing currently that are really helping you, that you see are providing value in your life?
connect with nature daily.
Connect with nature. What else? I know you're doing more than just that.
Journaling, as I told you. Reading.
Reading. What kind of books are you reading? What are you reading right now?
Right now, Poison. These are all German books.
It's all right. The Amazon makes it possible to get them in English sometimes.
Yeah.
I think well, actually, my book. So
I finished Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It.
wait, say that again. What's that called? I can't read that.
Auf Deutsch. Yeah.
What's that say? What's
that? Love yourself like your life depends on it.
Love yourself like your life depends on it. Man, I love that.
Yeah.
All I was saying earlier was like, yeah, my book is actually made to be international. So, like, for example, if a German publisher wanted to publish my book in German, all they have to do is it's a pretty simple thing. It's on this thing. There's like this international thing where they just like submit a request, goes to my publisher, and then they get the rights to publish my book in German. So hey, make that happen. No, but yeah, so like because of the power of Amazon and the internet, a lot of books that you have in Germany are also most likely available in English. So what else are you doing? Journaling, reading, nature. Are you just walking in nature? You running, you playing, you climbing trees?
Walking with my dogs.
What kind of dogs you got? We got some dog lovers listening. I know that.
Labrador.
Labrador? What kind of Labrador? I used to have a chocolate lab.
Black one.
Ooh.
Black one.
We got a black. This is totally off subject, but I know there's dog lovers and I love dogs. We've got a black golden doodle, and people are like, what? But it's a golden. So dad was a golden retriever, mom was a black poodle, and it turned out black and curly. So it's a pretty cool dog. What you said? You got another dog?
He's a mix. Anything, something.
Mixes are great. One of my favorite dogs growing up, we named him Scrapper. We actually found him. So I used to live in the suburbs of Chicago, which probably means nothing to you, but my mom used to teach in Aurora School District and brought home this dog that literally had everything wrong with it. It was a puppy, but it was so darn cute. It was like, I called it Scrappy because that's how it was. That's how it looked. It was a great dog, but it was literally, they found it was like a mix with like 20 different dogs. So those are some of the best dogs, those mutts, man. So obviously animals are important. What else what are you doing for fitness currently?
Kettlebell workouts.
Yeah, I've seen
kettlebell
some of those.
Workouts, 5 bars.
What are you doing What are you doing for nutrition?
Nutrition?
Yeah, how are you eating?
Well, interval fasting, time restricted eating.
Intermittent fasting. So what time frame do you eat in?
16-8.
Between 6 to 8 hours.
6.
When do you usually start like your first meal?
Around 10 o'clock.
So 10 a.m. and then from 6 to 8 hours from that. Oh, you're about similar to me. Again, we're not like saying everybody's got to do intermittent fasting. I'm just asking these questions because these are some things that can help. The reason why I do it, I have no appendix that was removed. And over the course of years of finding different ways of eating, I found that giving my gut a rest and a break and just giving it fluids. It doesn't mean I'm not drinking anything. I am having fluids. It doesn't mean I don't have nutrition. For me, I eat a pretty good amount of food within that 6 to 8 hour window. But yeah, so what kinds of foods are you eating between that window? Like meats, veggies, fruits?
I start with nuts and dried fruits. That's
nuts, dried fruits.
Every day at 10 a.m. a handful nuts and some dried fruits, and then around lunchtime, my wife's cooking lunch, so we join together, eating together.
I assume you don't drink anymore, or do you still have the occasional cocktail, or
alcohol?
No, like alcoholic beverage. Do you have the occasional? Are you cut
green tea?
What?
Only green tea. Green tea, coffee, and water. That's it.
Wow. Man. Did you just cut cold turkey, like, with alcohol and everything? Like,
I ask myself, what value alcohol delivers. And if you ask yourself this question, there is no value in alcohol.
What value does this bring me? Man, that's going to be hard for a lot of people. Yeah. But, it's a good question to ask. Like, what value? Is this helping? Is this hurting? Man,
no,
that's something for me to think about. What value is this bringing? I'm going to write that one down. That's going to be challenging for a lot of people listening to this, but it's something to honestly ask yourself. And when you ask yourself, don't beat yourself up about it. Just what value is this bringing? And how do you, another thing, something I do, and maybe a follow-up, how does this make you feel? How will this, and are you okay with how this is going to make you feel afterwards? Those are some of the things that I ask my clients.
For me, I figured out alcohol was always that I tried to hide from something that was in my mind. It's also with social media. Why you open social media? Sometimes you don't want to connect with yourself. Night you search for the distraction.
Yeah.
You search for the distraction. You don't connect with your thoughts.
And that was one of the benefits of this too. Like him and I connected on social media, which shows the benefits of it. Finding valuable people to talk to, relationships, people that are going to pick you up, not bring you down. There's all kinds of algorithms. You can do your part and think about what you want to fill your mind and your heart with, and just be consciously aware of that. You know, and those are the things to really look for. Man, I really love this. I feel like we would have a lot to relate on too. So here's a question. So for those that don't know, I did one of those DNA tests, and we're gonna be wrapping it up here soon. But I am like 70-something% German. My ancestors came over in the mid 1700s. Firstborn was born just in time to. He was like a late teens, early 20s. His name was George Arnold. He fought in the Revolutionary War. I think under George Washington actually as well. I bring that up because like for the longest time we didn't know, and I've always loved German food. like that's why I'm bringing this up. And I found out, maybe it's still in my gene pool, and it was. And so I'm like a lot of German, and I'm a lot of like Scandinavian, so I'm part Viking, guys. But is there any still staple German foods that you still kind of like indulge in or enjoy, or have you made healthier versions of those? What about that? That's my question.
Typical German food.
Yeah.
Sauerkraut.
Yeah.
I make my own sauerkraut.
Oh man, maybe we should share that recipe. I love pickled everything. Like my daughter's got into that. My youngest, guess what she asked for yesterday? I'm not joking. She is some of her favorites. She also loves cake, by the way, and unicorns. But she loves pickled beets and sardines. My 7-year-old model dancer, hockey player. That's her favorite. She's like, "Can we have sardines and beets tomorrow?" It blows my mind. I mean, I'll chat out with that stuff. But yeah, that's some good stuff. So. You make your own sauerkraut. Do you still eat sausage at all or anything?
Could you repeat?
Do you still eat like any kind of typical sausage or anything?
Sausage?
Isn't that? I mean, that's more.
It's not a lot of meat that I eat.
Oh, really? Okay.
Only, from my friend. He had a Black Angus farm, and that's the meat that I consume.
And you find your energy is pretty good. It sounds like your mental health is doing really good. Physically, man, you should go check this guy out. He just posted a jacked picture of his 6-pack yesterday. But that's not why he's doing it. It's part of. It's the effects of living a physically and mentally and emotionally well life. Your body will follow where your mind is at, and he didn't do it for the 6-pack. He did it, as he mentioned on this show, for himself, for the betterment of his family, for those he care around with him. With that, this has been a real pleasure. Is there anything else you add that somebody could do today to help them strive today, every day, 365 days a year? What's something they could do to strive? Anything you like to add?
Realize that you have every day the opportunity to choose who you want to be in your world.
Well, that's a good one. You have opportunity to choose. Say that again. You have opportunity to choose
who you want to be in your world.
Who you want to be in your world every single day.
You are the creator of your own world.
Something else he said earlier that I just want to remind you, because that's one of the things that really stood out to me during this is everything's happening for a reason. So you need to find that reason in a way. I'm paraphrasing, but there's opportunity in this to learn or grow or win. Yeah. So with that, man, Dennis, unless there's anything else, man, I really appreciate this. There was a lot of cool stuff. I know a lot of people can relate. I just think it's incredible that in this day and age we can connect with somebody from Germany or wherever out in the world. And it's an opportunity, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, for you all to listen in, that we're all dealing with stuff. We all go through things. We're all challenged. We might have a rhyme and reason or we may not. And he just made some great points on how we can move and groove and get through this. And man, there was some really cool stuff. And if you know somebody that's dealing with mental health that could really find value in this, please share with them. You never know. You never know how one of the words that I said or that Dennis said or something from here just triggers somebody to go into a better and healthier direction. So with that, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Strive 365. We appreciate you. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and share it with the world, because you never know how you might save a life. Take care.